tsinda burundu akarengane na ruswa. U Rwanda ruzira ruswa n'akarengane mu cyerekezo 2050. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM. Munyarwanda, isuku ni isoko y'ubuzima. Zirikana ko isuku kubagize umuryango wawe ari inshingano zawe. Isuku kuri buri munyarwanda, igihugu kizira indwara. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
Good evening, dear listener. Thank you for tuning in. This is Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM, broadcasting from Kigali. Here are the news in English, brought to you by Alvin Ungali. The headlines. Belen Calvo-Uyara, the European Union ambassador to Rwanda, said the bloc is committed to supporting Rwanda in realizing its ambition of becoming an upper middle income country by 2035 in line with economic growth and prosperity. The Minister of Interior, Alfred Gasana, has urged residents of Rubavu district in Wijeshi sector to avoid illegal crossing into Democratic Republic of Congo. The ousted former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir on Tuesday acknowledged his full responsibility for the 1989 coup that overthrew the government of the late former Prime Minister Sadiq al-Mahdi at the time and installed him as the new leader. Senegal's Interior Minister has received his French counterpart in Dakar, where they both discussed bilateral issues on immigration and student visas. We'll be back with news in detail. Thank you. Welcome back. Belen Calvo-Uyara, the European Union ambassador to Rwanda, said the bloc is committed to supporting Rwanda in realizing its ambition of becoming an upper middle income country by 2035 in line with economic growth and prosperity. Uyara said their meeting was a great opportunity to review the very strong partnership between the European Union and Rwanda and to engage on the key priorities of this partnership and the AU support to Rwanda's transformation agenda. She made the observations on Wednesday in Kigali while speaking to journalists after paying a courtesy call on the Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, Donatil Mukabalisa. Speaker Mukabalisa said, "We're happy with the good relations between the European Union and Rwanda, and we expressed commitment to further the relations between the two parties." She added that we thank them for the support they provide to us in agriculture, education, energy, health, and many sectors that contribute to the growth of our country's economy, while commending the AU's contribution to the Parliament in terms of building its oversight capacity and citizen-centered legislation. The Minister of Interior, Alfred Gasana, has urged residents of Rubavu district in Wijeshi sector to avoid illegal crossing into Democratic Republic of Congo, saying that the country will not be able to rescue them. Speaking to citizens that gathered in Wijeshi, Minister Gasana advised local residents to not cross into DR Congo illegally, since the country cannot be able to follow up on their safety once they have crossed the border or rescue their lives when they're in danger. He noted whatever causes you to cross the border illegally is prohibited, and once you do that, the country has no means to save you in those circumstances. It is putting your life at risk, and it's not easy to rescue you or differentiate you from the enemy on your way back. Border crossing should be illegal. He further urged the border community to encourage their families and relatives who might be in the Congo jungles to come back and unite with Rwandans for national development. During his long speech and interaction interacting with local residents, Minister Gasana stressed that they should ensure a crime-free festive season ending this year and starting a new one in peace. Minister Gasana also said local residents can keep welcoming DR Congo refugees and report them to authorities so they can be well cared for during this festive season and not engage in crimes as a result of drunkenness. The United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, in Rwanda has welcomed a contribution of $3.6 million from Germany to support the food and nutrition needs of women and children in the refugee community, to strengthen government social protection systems and improve food security and incomes for smallholder farmers. The funding was received from both the German Federal Foreign Ministry GFFO, which contributes $1.9 million and the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development BMZ, which contributes 1.7 United States dollars. Soaring costs of food, energy and fertilizer combined with limited land availability and climate extremes such as drought and floods are affecting the food security and incomes of smallholder farmers and refugees in Rwanda, said Edith Haynes, the WFP's country director in Rwanda. The funding from German Federal Foreign Ministry will be used to provide supplementary feeding to prevent chronic malnutrition among 3,800 pregnant and breastfeeding women and 300 young children in the refugee community, and to prevent acute malnutrition among refugees being treated for HIV and tuberculosis. The funds will also support over 37,000 children from both refugee and host communities with daily nutrition school meals, a critical social safety net which relieves parents from having to budget for lunches and encourage greater enrollment and retention for children in schools. Filipe Taflinski, the head of development cooperation at the German embassy in Kigali, said, in view of the high food price inflation currently observed in Rwanda, we're glad to continue supporting the World Food Programme in its critical work with the most vulnerable. The World Food Programme's focus on refugees, school children and rural communities throughout the country in close cooperation with the government is highly relevant and provides valuable socio-economic opportunities in view of the current challenges. This funding comes in addition to a contribution of $2 million received from the General Federal Foreign Ministry and BMZ in 2021. The heads of correctional services of Rwanda and Kenya signed a memorandum of understanding to renew a further strengthened bilateral cooperation in correctional services. The MOU was signed between Juvenal Marizamunda, the Commissioner General of Rwanda Correctional Services, RCS, and with the Kenyan delegation. This is a part of a 3-day working visit of the Kenyan delegation to rediscuss the interinstitutional cooperation between the RCS and the Kenyan Prison Service, KPS. The visit also aims at discussing ways and means to reinvigorate the partnership between the KPS and the RCS, that the cooperation in prisoners' correctional reintegration and aftercare services will enhance the existing relationships. CGP Brigadier retired John L. Warioba, the Commissioner General of KPS, said the memorandum of understanding between the Rwanda Correctional Service has been there, but it had expired, adding that they're here to renew it. He said once the agreement is signed, there will be a lot to learn from both the Rwanda Correctional Service with the prisoner services of Kenya. Peliga Kwaya, the spokesperson of RCS, said Rwanda and Kenya have a good relationship, and this has driven several partnerships and collaboration in different sectors. She added one of the priorities is having to exchange programs, sending our students to Kenya for training them and sending students to Rwanda. And we have projects like the biogas project and health insurance that they want to learn about. The delegation also visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial Site, where they pay their respects to the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Singita Kwitonda Lodge has been ranked among the world's top 35 resorts by the U.S. magazine Condé Nast Traveler. Condé Nast Traveler is a luxury and lifestyle magazine published by Condé Nast. The 34th annual research for 2022 list released this week was created based on reader reviews. Singita, a renowned African conservation brand, operates more than 15 luxury lodges, with the recent one opened in Rwanda. The Singita Volcanoes National Park in Musanze is part of Singita's ambitious undertaking to work with the Rwandan government and local forward-thinking communities to rehabilitate, reforest and maintain the biological integrity of 7,000 acres of land. The survey comes at a time when Rwanda wants to position itself as a tourism destination hub. The latest data released on Monday, December 19th, indicates that the services sector contributed 47% of the country's economy. And we'll be back with economic news.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
The trading session recorded a turnover of 260,818,200 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in 4 deals on the fixed income market, and 5,456,800 Rwandan francs from 49,600 shares traded in 7 deals on the equities market. The equities counters closed as follow: MTN Rwanda at 175 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 328 Rwandan francs, Bank of Kigali at 271 Rwandan francs, I&M Rwanda at 43 Rwandan francs, Bralirwa at 170 Rwandan francs, Simerwa at 120 Rwandan francs, Equity at 440 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchumi Supermarket Limited at 104 Rwandan francs, and Arundich Buffalo at 526 Rwandan francs. The exchange rate today: the United States dollar was buying 1,056 Rwandan francs and was selling 1,077 Rwandan francs. The British pound was buying 1,285 and was selling 1,311 Rwandan francs. The euro was buying 1,121 and was selling 1,143 Rwandan francs. The Kenyan shilling was buying 8.5 Rwandan francs and was selling 8.7 Rwandan francs. The Tanzanian shilling was buying 0.45 Rwandan francs and was selling 0.46 Rwandan francs. The Ugandan shilling was buying 0.29 and was selling 0.29 Rwandan francs. The Burundian francs was buying 0.50 Rwandan francs and was selling 0.52 Rwandan francs. And we'll be back shortly with international news.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
Senegal's interior minister has received his French counterpart in Dakar, where they both discussed bilateral issues on immigration and student visas. Also discussed was what they called the burning issue of intense drug trafficking between the two countries. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said Tuesday in Dakar, in the presence of his Senegalese counterpart, that he wanted to cut short the rumor of intense drug trafficking between the two countries. His Senegalese colleague Antoine Félix Abdoulaye Diome spoke of a really marginal issue and spoke out against the cliches conveyed on the part taken by his compatriots in drug trafficking, especially crack in Paris. We note, and I think it is a shared view in the intelligence, that there is not, at least not in a very large quantity, drugs that circulate between Senegal and France. Darmanin told reporters after talks with his counterpart during a 24-hour visit to his traditional ally in France. He said, we do not see the arrival of traffic constituted between Senegal and France, and I would like to cut short this rumor, but we need to discuss more about the few people. It's really only a few people who are involved in trafficking, especially in Paris. He said, while asserting that Paris and Dakar already had excellent cooperation on the subject. The involvement of Senegalese has been reported in various media, French politician Eric Zemmour, a candidate for the 2022 presidential election, said in May 2021 that all crack dealers were Senegalese in Paris. Mr. Darmanin said he understood the grievances and he invokes the delays due to COVID-19 elsewhere in the world, as well as the existence of trafficking and visa fraud, which also exist in part in Senegal as elsewhere. He promised within a week a return to normal visa issuance times in Senegal, with the objective of bringing regular immigration to France back to pre-pandemic levels. The ousted former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir on Tuesday acknowledged his full responsibility for the 1989 coup that overthrew the government of the late former Prime Minister Sadiq al-Mahdi at the time and installed him as the new leader. The long-term ruler of Sudan, who himself was ousted in April 2019, denied any role for civilians and military members of the Revolutionary Command Council in planning and implementing the seizure of power. The former president is currently serving a prison sentence for corruption. Mr. Bashir, 15 officers of the armed force and 8 civilians from among the leaders of the Islamic movement appeared before a special court to face charges of masterminding a coup. Under Sudanese law, the crimes carry the death penalty if one is found guilty of undermining the constitutional system and overthrowing the elected authority at the time. Bashir told the court, "I stand before this court and I say with pride and dignity that I am the leader and the bomber of the National Salvation Revolution, and I bear all responsibility for what happened in June 1989. He stated that he was following with pleasure the indictment attempts and his production of video clips to prove his involvement in the coup. In his testimony, Bashir declared that all the accused members of the Revolutionary Command Council had no role in planning and implementing the seizure of power. He also denied that civilians supported the military actions. It was purely a military action and we did not need civilians to help us." The United Kingdom government has said today it has yet to find a new airline to deport UK asylum seekers to Rwanda. Home Secretary Suella said there were ongoing discussions with several airlines after Privilege Style pulled out in October. The UK used a plane run by the Spanish charter airline for first flight in June, which was abandoned at the last minute due to legal challenges. Asked if she had since found another airline to operate flights to Rwanda, Ms. Braverman told the Lords Justice and Home Affairs Committee, "We have a lot of ongoing discussions with several airlines and we are returning people almost every week to various countries around the world. We do that through scheduled flights with charter flights, so we're in a variety of discussions and several airlines for lots of different destinations." Ms. Braverman stated earlier this week that she was dedicated to sending refugees as quickly as possible to Rwanda, following the UK's high judges in court rejecting the government's plan to deport people to Rwanda, all legal immigrants who cross the channel to the UK. The government will spend £3.5 billion on accommodation and support for asylum seekers in 2022/2023, of which £2.3 billion will go towards paying for hotels. President Samia Suluhu Hassan has witnessed the signing of the contract for Lot 6 of the Standard Gauge Railway's SGR project, which runs from Tabora to Kigoma at the State House in Dar es Salaam. The contract to construct the 506-kilometer project was entered by 3 parties, namely the Tanzanian Railway Corporation, China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, and China Railway Construction Company. The completion of the SGR project, which is scheduled for 2027, is expected to turn Tanzania into a regional transport hub, serving countries like Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Speaking shortly after witnessing the signing of the contract, President Samia said the SGR project has so far cost 23.3 trillion Tanzanian shillings, demanding diligence in its implementation because the money is a loan. She added, so those who say that this administration is borrowing heavily should also know that this is an administration that is building the entire SGR railway line line, and we wouldn't be able to build it using our own money. We had to borrow them because the debts have to be paid. The head of state said tax collection should be efficient as Tanzania fails to pay back the loans. Where we have been criticized for borrowing heavily, we should also be applauded to pay back heavily. The UN Security Council has adopted a resolution relaxing the embargo on arms exported to the DR Congo, a decision held by Kinshasa as an injustice repaired. The resolution removes language that previously required countries to inform the Security Council and its 15 members of any sale of arms or military assistance to the DRC. Kinshasa has long deplored the requirement, saying it created an unnecessary bureaucratic obstacle in its fight against armed groups. The Democratic Republic of Congo has been under a UN arms embargo since 2000. The decision was made at the time in response to the extent of the violence in the Central African country. In 2008, the Security Council amended its sanctions regime to apply only to armed groups, but it still required Kinshasa to notify a monitoring committee of any arms purchases. Early this year, the Security Council extended the sanctions regime but reduced the notification requirements for certain arms purchases. Kinshasa has since continued to push for lifting for the restriction as the DRC faces an upsurge in clashes with the M23 militia in the east. DRC government spokesman Patrick Muyaya, after the resolution was adopted, he said on Twitter the Security Council had been pressed to act amid accusation that it was preventing the Congolese military from protecting civilians, a battle won and injustice righted. The Security Council also voted to renew the mandate of the peacekeeping mission in the DRC MONUSCO for another year. And that brings us to the end of today's program. Let us look at the headlines once more. Belen Calvo-Uyara, the European Union ambassador to Rwanda, said the bloc is committed to supporting Rwanda in realizing its ambition to becoming an upper middle income country by 2035 in line with economic growth and prosperity. The Minister of Interior, Alfred Gasana, has urged residents of Rubavu district in Bujeshi sector to avoid illegal crossing into Democratic Republic of Congo. The ousted former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir on Tuesday acknowledged his full responsibility for the 1989 coup that overthrew the government of the late former Prime Minister Sadiq al-Mahdi at the same time and installed him as the new leader. Senegal's Interior Minister has received his French counterpart in Dakar, where they both discussed bilateral issues on immigration and student visas. Thank you for staying with me. This was Alvin Ungari on Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM. Stay tuned, stay safe, and have a wonderful night.